in the early years, I lived out there on Beverly Drive before I started school and up until our house bought away in '36 after I finished first grade. Then we moved back there for my second year in high school. So some of those things I write about had to do with both times, and I just thought of an incident that I thought was kind of cute. Me and my buddy Charles LaFawn and his little brother Norman, we were out looking for some place to get into, some kind of mischief on a Saturday night. We weren't going to camp out that night. We were going to just go over and have some fun. It was close to 4th of July, I think, and so we had a pocket full of those firecrackers, and I favored those big, what we call baby giants. They were about as big as your thumb, about that long, big red ones, and the fuse on them more like a twisted rope rather than the little ones. And boy, you wouldn't want to be close when that thing went off. But anyway, we were looking some way and we went over to these friends' place. It was about 2 miles from where we lived, and the three of us. And we had our slingshots. We didn't call them slingshots in those days, but that's, I guess, to be politically correct and keep from people just throwing rocks at you, you have to call them slingshots now. On that note, never thought of an ethnic reason for naming them what they were named. Can't say the word. People get crazy if you say the word. Used it all the time then, didn't even know what it meant. Anyway, so there's all these over there that had a cattle guard entrance, and we went over there a lot, and sometimes on our horses, but this time we were walking, and it was dark at night, and we started at the entrance to this oil lease. It was flat, nothing out there but broom weeds growing about knee high, and in a place where they had drilled a well and then covered it up. And so there were no trees for about the first 4 or 5 acres. And when we passed that and followed this rail, there wasn't a railroad, it was just a trail that lovers had made going back in the woods. We didn't call them lovers then. I don't know what we called them then. They were just couples that hid back there in the woods. Well, we've got to follow that little old trail and almost ran into the bumper of this parked car. It was so dark, didn't see it, and there it was. And whoever's in there had backed in as far as they could back, right up into the fence. Well, I don't think they saw us, because probably there was something going on inside there that kept them busy, and they weren't looking out. So we went around it and got behind it. Had to cross the fence. Had a barbed wire fence. Had to cross that fence to get behind it. And we, mostly me, I guess. I got to confess, I was kind of the guy that, I had all the ideas. So I put one of those baby giants in my slingshot, and boy, I nearly said the wrong word. I put it in my slingshot, drew it back, and had Charles to light it. It was in my slingshot, and he lit it, and I aimed at like if he was in the army and going to shoot a mortar, goes high and back down. That's what I did. I shot that thing up in the air. I didn't know where it was coming down. But as luck would have it, it came down on the hood of that car and went off about that same time. There was a boom, there was a flash of light, there was horns honking 2 or 3 times, and lots of activity in that little coop. Well, we were on the other side of the barbed wire fence and well behind. Whoever's in there had no idea what happened or who or what, anything about it, but they decided maybe they ought to vacate that area. And we were laughing. We came back over the fence. We're coming back down the road. We're laughing. We thought that was the funniest thing we've done that night. That was a lot of fun. And as we come out of the woods, there's that car parked right there before the leaving the lease. Still this side of the cattle guard. There it was, parked in the dark, facing out. Well, a while ago was so much fun. I'd do it again, but this time we'd do something different. So where they filled in the slush pit on that oil well, it was heavy clay mud type stuff. And boy, you could make a big mud ball out of your hands, clay, it'd hang together almost like a baseball. And then you would fling that thing like you were throwing a hand grenade, like that. Well, as luck would have it, came down on the top of the car. Well, it was a bloomp, oh, now the lights flash, the horns honk. And we're laughing, but all of a sudden, that car starts up and starts to turn around. Uh-oh. Well, here we are, a bunch of, 3 kids, the oldest one about 13, 14 years old. It's the oldest. That was probably me. 13, that was summer of 14 maybe. Anyway, we dropped down on the ground. Go down in the broomweed there over your head. They made a circle, small circle, with that shining their headlights all around. And they missed us. They didn't see us. Well, Norman, he was about a year or two younger than Charles, his brother. And he spooked. And when the lights passed over us and didn't see us, he jumped up and ran. Well, they made a second circle, and they caught him running in the lights. And here they came after him in that car. Well, he run directly away from us, and they're coming directly over us, so we couldn't just lay in the grass. They're going to run over us. So Charles and I jumped up, and we looked mean, And we drew those I nearly said it again. We drew that slingshot up, threatened them. Well, they stopped. Whoa. 2 of us there, armed. We're armed. Well, these are big boys. These boys are big enough, probably going to at least high school or college maybe or something. They're bigger boys. They got out. One on each side got out. What do you think you're doing, you kids? We're kids. They're boys. They're big boys. Well, I spoke up there with great, well, it's none of your business. You're on private property. You're trespassing. That's against the law. You're on private property. And the bluff worked. I said, it's against the law. We call the law and have you out here and have you thrown in jail driving around on private property. Don't know what you're doing. You may be up to stealing something. We don't know. Now you better beat it. Well, guess what? It worked. They got back in the car and drove off. Well, we had to sit down and breathe for a little bit, get the heart going back to right speed, gathered up Norman. He must run a half a mile. Anyway, we got him back, and we started home. We crossed the cattle guard, went down about a quarter of a mile, turned up this other road, and about a quarter mile up that second road, there's the coop again. Well, we decided maybe, we've had about all the fun we can afford to have. And I don't know, it kind of looked like a good idea not to push our luck, so we just walked on by a little slow. Didn't say anything, just walked right on by and kept on. Nothing happened. Well, that was just one more adventure down there on the banks of the Little Wichita. We're just kids.